Dad, why are you a Republican? I have 12 children. 8 are from my loins and 4 are stepchildren from my second marriage. Their ages span from 15 to 29, and their politics is as varied as their faith, which constitutes quite a remarkable family. This video is for them. I became a Republican when I turned 18, much to the chagrin of my Democratic Catholic mother and father. 6 months earlier, the 26th Amendment had been enacted, allowing 18, 19, and 20-year-olds the right to vote, and my generation was very much a part of that national debate. My high school history teachers played a major role in my decision, as class discussion focused on the U.S. Constitution and its amendments. We learned that a Republican-controlled Congress proposed, passed, and led the fight to ratify the 13th Amendment, which had abolished slavery and involuntary servitude. They also passed the 14th Amendment, which defines citizenship, contains the Immunities Clause, the Due Process Clause, and the Equal Protection Clause, which was most recently used by a federal judge to strike down Utah's ban on gay marriages. Moreover, the 15th Amendment, also a Republican law, prohibits the denial of suffrage based on race, color, or a previous condition of servitude. The 16th Amendment, which empowered the federal government to impose and collect income tax, was not the product of Democrats and Woodrow Wilson, as many of my fellow party members believe. In fact, income tax was birthed by 2 Republican presidents and passed by a Republican-controlled House and U.S. Senate. Since its passage, this Republican income tax constitutional amendment has provided the federal government with the power to tax, create, and fund legislation that includes everything from funding World War I to the creating and now funding the controversial Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. A Republican House and U.S. Senate, daughters Eileen, Alexandra, Shoshana, Marisha, Kathleen, Isabella, and Lily, also proposed, passed, and championed the 19th Amendment's ratification, which established women's suffrage, or your right to vote. There is much more legislation to recount, but since in 2013 and 14 I have 5 children in college and 3 more to go, let's talk about the GOP and higher education. In high school, I learned that many of the universities recruiting me for basketball were founded as a direct result of the presidential and congressional legislation known as the Morrill Acts. These GOP congressional acts founded educational institutions by granting federal land to the states for them to sell and then utilize the money to establish and endow what is now known as land-grant colleges. Today, there are 76 land-grant colleges, and some of the standouts include University of California, Berkeley, which is my wife's alma mater, Penn State, which is my alma mater, Virginia Tech, which is my son's alma mater, University of Florida, which is my daughter's alma mater, and even private universities like Cornell and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. In 1971, I also learned that Republicans in my lifetime, although in the congressional minority, also championed civil rights, such as 90% of the GOP Congress joining moderate Democrats to break the Southern Democratic filibuster on the Civil Rights Act. Additionally, in 1972, President Nixon was up for re-election. As an 18-year-old with a Vietnam War draft number, I took notice that Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower got us out of Democrat President Harry Truman's Korean War, while Republican President Nixon was close to exacting us out of Democratic Presidents Kennedy and Johnson's Vietnam War. Additionally, Republican President Richard Nixon also pursued reforms in welfare, health care, civil rights, energy, and environmental law with the philosophy that such policies should have national standards and not be a patchwork of 50 different states' laws. Although the Democratic Congress defeated Nixon's welfare and health care reforms, the President created the Office of Management and Budget, the Office of Energy Policy, and supported the Clean Air Act of 1970. Additionally, President Nixon had established the Environmental Protection Agency, insisted that Congress broaden the U.S. Civil Rights Commission mandate to include sex discrimination, and signed all the civil rights legislation passed by Congress, including Title IX, which banned sexual discrimination in educational benefits. For my financial whiz kid children, Louis, Jenna, and Raphael, it should also be noted that by 1972, Richard Nixon was also responsible for the series of economic measures that unilaterally canceled the direct convertibility of the United States dollar to gold. This helped to end the existing Bretton Woods system of international financial exchange, ushering in the era of freely floating currencies that remains to this present day. So, my dear children, at 18, thanks to some very engaging history and political science teachers, the Vietnam War, and the national debate surrounding the 26th Amendment's ratification, I registered as a Republican and voted for Richard Milhouse Nixon. Today, 42 years later, I still remain a member of the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, and Richard Nixon that I selected in my youth. Perhaps, through your generation, the Republican Party will renew itself once again by embracing its 19th and 20th century roots of fiscal responsibility, minority rights, championing higher education and a free enterprise system that is not stacked against people without capital or political influence. This is Stanley Yavna Close. Thank you for webbing in.